Okay, we are often told that autonomous vehicles, AVs, represent inevitable progress. Cleaner streets, safer roads, greater efficiency, all of which need to be proven. And whilst these promises might seem seductive, what receives far less attention is the social, economic, and ethical cost of handing over control of mobility to large technological corporations. And today, maybe we could just look at one or two of these issues: what AV automation actually means, who stands to gain economically, and how this shift changes our relationship with ownership, privacy, and personal autonomy. To kick off, the levels of automation. Not all self-driving vehicles are equal. You have level 1 and level 2, which are driver assist systems. The human remains responsible at all times. Think adaptive cruise control or lane assist. We are used to that with a TXE, aren't we? Helpful tools, but not autonomy. Level 3 introduces conditional automation. The vehicle can drive itself in certain situations, but expects the human to intervene when prompted. And this creates a kind of ambiguous grey area where the driver is disengaged, yet is still legally accountable. Level 4 vehicles are highly automated with defined zones, so-called geofence autonomy. In these areas, the car doesn't need human input. Outside of them, it does, and that's why we see these cars going around at the moment, mapping. Level 5 and level 6, full autonomy. Remove the human driver completely, no steering wheel, no pedals, mobility becomes a service delivered by machines owned by corporations. And that's the critical inflection point, when transport stops being something you control and becomes something you rent. Next up is the economic displacement. When Uber first arrived on the scene, it didn't just try to innovate, it disrupted livelihoods and decimated local businesses. And today, there are roughly 105,000 private hire drivers in London alone. Work that is directly replaceable by automation. Now, I know there's a lot of cab drivers out there that won't lose sleep over minicab drivers being directly replaceable. But for the sake of argument, and I do also want to put aside the notion that a lot of minicab drivers supplement their income with tax credit, we need to look at this at face value in that they are minicab drivers in order to try and earn a living. And it would also be naive of us to think that taxi drivers won't be affected by competing interests at some point in the future. But I'll focus on that another time. Essentially, AV expansion replaces drivers with fleets owned by multinational tech firms. And this doesn't just remove those jobs, it redirects economic flow. And it could be money that currently circulates inside the UK economy risks being extracted and consolidated elsewhere. Take a look at what is happening currently.
So are all of these human operators located in the United States? Are they all here?
No, we have some in the US and some abroad.
So how does that break down? What percent are abroad?
Senator, I don't have that number for you. We can get back to you.
Is it a majority are abroad?
I just don't have that number.
Well, that's very curious that someone who's running the program has no idea how that workforce breaks down. It just seems kind of curious that you don't know that answer. But are some of these operators located outside the United States?
Yeah, some are located abroad.
Yeah, and so for me, that's fairly shocking. Waymo has critical safety employees who may need to intervene in a split second if a Waymo encounters an unknown dangerous situation located in the United States, but they are outside the United States. In what countries are these employees located?
The Philippines.
Jimmy?
The Philippines.
So they're in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Mr. Pena, that is completely unacceptable. And here's why. Having people overseas influencing American vehicles is a safety issue. The information the operators receive could be out of date. It could introduce tremendous cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We don't know if these people have U.S. driver's licenses. And let's not forget, Waymo is trying to replace the jobs of hardworking taxi and rideshare drivers. And now you're saying that of the human beings, the human jobs that remain in the system, you're shipping those jobs overseas. It's one thing when a taxi is replaced by an Uber or a Lyft. It's another thing when the jobs just go completely overseas.
So this is not simply a labour issue, it's a structural one. We are potentially replacing distributed human-centred income with centralised corporate revenue streams. And the question isn't whether technology advances, it always does, but whether societies get to decide how that transition happens and who absorbs the cost. On top of all that, the AV model is built on a shift from ownership to usership. Instead of owning a vehicle, you hire one or subscribe to access. Now, that sounds convenient until you realise that it concentrates power. When mobility becomes platform controlled, companies gain leverage over pricing, access and behaviour. And that is a big deal. I mean, just look at the way Uber harnessed its tech to manipulate and exploit its own drivers.
You think you're working for Uber, but what if Uber is working you? Let us talk about how Uber quietly outsmarts its drivers one algorithm at a time. You see a surge zone pop up. Extra cash, right? Not so fast. That surge is often delayed or based on historical data, not real-time demand. So by the time you get there, the surge has vanished. Classic bait and switch. Ever notice how a ride pays, say, £5 and 21 pence instead of £5 and 20 pence? That is not precision. It is a psychological trick. It makes drivers think there is a calculation behind it. But really, it is just smoke and mirrors. Each week, Uber shows you how much they took. Like, we took 23.47% this week. Looks scientific, right? But it is arbitrary. Just enough transparency to keep you confused, not informed. Do 5 trips, get £5. Oh, nice. But next thing you know, every trip after that is underpriced. Uber finds a way to get their £5 back. You win the battle, but lose the war.
Autonomous vehicles are not just transport machines, they are rolling biometric and behavioural sensors. Cameras map your face, systems track your movements, habits, destinations and patterns, and over time that data becomes extraordinarily valuable. It creates vast streams of information about ordinary citizens going about their day, and without strict safeguards that data can be processed and stored abroad, effectively siphoned into the servers of a handful of multinational corporations. Over time that concentrates unprecedented surveillance power in private hands. Companies not elected by the public, not directly accountable to British voters, yet holding intimate granular records of how millions of people move through public space. The infrastructure of our cities quite literally doubles up as a foreign-owned data pipeline. The question we must ask is simple. Who governs that data? Who profits from it? And what protections exist when mobility infrastructure is privately owned by foreign entities? Now look, to conclude, this isn't an anti-tech argument, even though I might be impacted by it in the future. I love technology and I'm very glad I'm here to see and witness such advancement. And autonomous vehicles may very well reduce accidents. They may improve logistics and they may impact our cities in positive ways. But progress without public scrutiny is not progress. It's surrender to big business interests. Every major technological shift redistributes power. The printing press did. The internet did. AVs will too. The issue is whether that distribution strengthens societies or weakens them. Whether we design systems that serve people or people who serve systems. The conversation we need isn't about whether AVs will arrive. It's about the terms under which they do. And the taxi trade needs to be on high alert, because when all is said and done, we are a relational species, and sometimes, just sometimes, the social fabric of a city is lost when we are reduced to a singular focus on systems, process improvement and data streams.